My first video in the new garden. Right off, there's a huge basil plant. That plant's doing very well, which I can't say the same for a lot of the plants in the new garden, but that basil sure seems to like it here. Those tomatoes there, most of those I started from seed this year indoors, but there's actually one or two of them as a volunteer. I guess whoever lived here before me must have had some tomatoes growing somewhere. You can see one single sunflower plant back there. At the beginning of the summer, I just randomly threw a bunch of sunflower seeds all over the garden, expecting to get many plants, and that's the only one that grew. I guess my seeds must have been a little bit old. And here are two watermelon plants. You can see how huge they are. I tried growing watermelons in the old garden. Never really worked too well, and mainly because you can see, well, how big these plants are. And there are two of them here. I wish I would have planted two different varieties because they look exactly the same. I can't tell which plant is which plant, and I can't tell which plant the watermelons are growing on. I really should probably thin some of the watermelons off, but I'm afraid I'll take all the watermelons off one plant and none off the other plant, because you can see, you really can't tell which plant any of these watermelons are growing on. And every once in a while, one will pop up and surprise me. When they're little, I don't see them hiding under all the leaves, and then they get big, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a huge watermelon there. And some more tomatoes. And you can see I'm using, there's a lot of trees behind the garden, behind my house, and so there's always branches and sticks falling down. As you can see, I'm using them for stakes, and you can also see some of the fence posts there I'm using for stakes, but I don't have to keep buying them like I used to in the old garden, because I have pretty much unlimited supply of wooden fence posts out in the woods behind the garden. These beans are doing really well. I've been picking so many of them every day. And I don't have any. I only have one neighbor here at the new garden. There used to be so many neighbors at the old garden. When I had too much of something, I had lots of people to give them to. But those bean plants there have been producing so many beans, and I don't really have anybody to give them to. Whatever I haven't been using, I've kind of just been throwing them back in the garden. You may see in some of these shots here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, there's beans just laying all over the garden. And when I can't use them, I just pick them and throw them on the ground. And some hot peppers there. A lot of these plants, you can see I don't have them in the ground. I have them in pots or buckets, and the soil here is not real good yet. I'm working on that. Plus this area right here up close to the house next to the deck, there's just lots of stones here. The previous owner just threw lots of stones down in this area, and I'm not going to try to grow anything in here with all these stones, and I'm not going to try to remove the stones. There's too many. I'm just going to use this area for the potted plants. They can sit right on top of all those stones. Yeah, and there's that huge, we've gone all the way around the garden here. There's that huge basil plant again, and some thyme and sage and oregano. And then on the right here, you can see I split that basil plant again to make another one. Yeah, there you can see a lot of the beans I've been throwing in the garden that I've been picking that I can't use. And there's a lot of grass clippings in the garden too. When I first started cutting the grass here, I did not have a bag on the lawnmower. I don't care what the lawn looks like, but recently I've had the bag on to collect the clippings to throw them in the garden, just to help keep the weeds down. And then now we're out on the driveway, and I've got a lot of plants in these containers here. I've been getting good soil from the woods, and when I first came here, I didn't plan on having so many plants in the containers, but the soil here is not great yet. It will be eventually. I'm working on it. We'll get it good eventually, but there's stones in there, roots in there. It's very sandy soil here. So it's just easier to control the soil in these pots for now. And then also, like these watermelons that are growing here, having them grow on the driveway is a little bit easier than having them grow out in the grass, because then you really can't cut the grass around the watermelon plants. So to have them grow on the driveway makes things easier. And then here are some blackberry plants. I did not plant these. Blackberry plants are just growing everywhere, all over this property. There's one little patch there. In certain areas I'm letting them grow, in other areas I'm cutting them down. And here's another little patch of them off to the right here. They were getting run down by the mower before I came here, so these plants don't have any berries on them this year, but I haven't been mowing them down this year, so next year they should have some berries. I hope they're a good variety, being that there's no berries this year. I have no idea how good they are or what variety they are. These plants do seem unusually small. I don't know if that's because of the variety, but also they're not getting full sunlight, and this soil's kind of hard that they're growing in, so maybe that's why they're not getting so large. There is a lot of them, though, as you can see, and these have a chance of having some berries out here in the sun, but these plants are growing all through the woods back there too. I'm sure, they're not getting enough sun to do anything back there, but these things are just popping up like weeds everywhere. And way back there, you can see my yard waste pile. That's where I've been throwing all the sticks and branches and that fall down that I don't want in the yard. And then up onto the deck, and there's all my cat bowls. I don't have a cat, but there's lots of cats that live around here somewhere. They come to visit me at night, and I've been feeding them. And that's what I've picked today. Like I was saying earlier, you can see how many beans I'm picking every day. I can't even use all them. I'm going to end up throwing most of these back in the garden. I'll use some today, but not all those. And then here's before I get out of here, here's a look at the garden from up on the deck. All those logs you see going around the garden, I cut them down in the trees behind my house. That's all for this one. See ya.